welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, which is the strategies for eating out with type 2 diabetes. Now, managing diabetes does not mean that you have to give up on the joy of dining out, especially when you're with your friends, when you're with your family. Instead, it's about making smart choices while you're enjoying your meals. Because if you're making smart choices, and that helps you enjoy your meals better, because that will keep your blood sugars in check. So I'm hoping that by the end of this session, you will have practical tips on what to do when you're eating out and what steps to follow while you're eating out. So without worrying about your health. So let's get started. First, what are the challenges that we face whenever we are eating out with type 2 diabetes? Right. The major challenge being is the restaurants are designed to sell delicious foods, not necessarily healthy food. So we are surrounded by tempting smells. We are surrounded by a lot of options to choose from, oversized portions, and hidden sugars in many dishes. Unlike home cooked meals, restaurant meals are kind of hard to control. But don't worry, by planning ahead, you can navigate your restaurant menus easily and still enjoy eating out. Now, if we talk about the major challenge for diabetes is its prevalence, right? So 1 in 10 Americans have diabetes. 90 to 95% of them have type 2 diabetes. Even the frequency of dining out is more. Let's say it's about 60% of Americans that choose to dine out once in a week. If we talk about the choices that are there in the restaurant, there are n number of choices. So we are kind of choosy whenever there's a lot of options. What to exactly choose that will really help me stabilize my sugars better, right? And if we talk about the portions, then the portions are even 2 times to 3 times more than a healthier portion to begin with, right? So I want to ask you a few questions first before getting into it deeper. So how often do you eat out per week? There are a few options for you, like never, once a week, twice or thrice in a week, more than 3 times a week. I will let you answer now.
Maybe we have Manav's answer, which says once a week. Great.
Wow.
I'll probably eat once or twice a week.
Okay, noted. What else?
We'll go forward with the answers, Anushka.
Perfect. So in the next slide, we are going to talk about some strategies that we need to follow specifically when you're dining outside, and these are research backed, right? So let me introduce a method to you, which is called the plate method first. So if you are able to look at my hands, these assume that this is your plate in which you'll be having your meal with outside at the hotel. So we have to make sure that 50% of my plate has some fiber in it. When I talk about the fibers, I'm talking about the vegetables. Vegetables, to be precise, the non-starchy ones, which grows above the soil level, because that will have more fiber and lesser to no starch in them, because then starch also breaks down into glucose molecules, right? So when I'm making sure that half of my plate has some kind of fiber in it, it can be cooked vegetables, it can be uncooked vegetables, it can be a mix of both, right? As per your liking. Now, if I'm having my fiber first, now half of my plate is still left. What's the second step to follow here? So I'll divide my 50% into quarters, like 1/4 of it for protein and 1/4 of it for the carbs that I'm choosing, specifically the grains, right? So I've had my fiber first, then I'll go with the protein, and along with it, I can have my carbs, which are the grains that I'm choosing. So when I'm having my meals this way, I'm kind of following a sequence here. First, I'm going with the fiber that will fill up my stomach and will make sure that the post-meal sugars are released slowly into the bloodstream and controlling 80% of my spikes. So like 80% of my job is done if I'm following meal sequencing, and like 80% of it, I'll see 80% of reduced spike later on because of the presence of fiber and protein helping and working together to slow down the release that I get from the carbs. So if I'm having my carbs first, I will see because carbs gets digested into the bloodstream at first, right? Quickly gets digested, so you will see a spike later on. But when we talk about protein, protein gets digested after carbs, and then the fats get digested after your after your fiber, right? So, what are the strategies that I need to follow? I have to make sure that there is enough fiber in my plate. I have to make sure that there is a good balance of protein and carbs, specifically 1/4 of my plate for each, right? And this is called the plate method or the meal sequencing that I follow. And the fourth is portion control. Now, if I followed this meal sequencing thing, right, it's making sure that 80% of my spikes are on the lesser side. The post meal spikes are much, much better. But if I am going for another serving here, now that will mess up my plate method. That will mess up the portions that I've chosen for myself. So let's say I've had salads here 50% and I've had some protein and I've had some carbs, some fats here, right? But if I'm like refilling on that fat, refilling on that carbs, maybe another serving of rice or quinoa, now that messes up because then it increases from 1/4 to more, a bit more than 1/4 quarter of a plate, right? So whichever quantity I want to have in my meal, I'll make sure that I like sequence it at one go instead of going for a second serving. So in the next slide, we are going to talk about the key principles for healthy dining out, which is obviously that we talked about the portion control. So instead of refilling my plate, I'll make sure that I follow good sequencing here because even when I'm eating at a restaurant, the portion size itself can be like 2 to 3 times a healthy portion. When we talk about the sauces and dressings that are used while preparing those meals, now these sauces can have some hidden sugars. It can have some fat. It can have a lot of cheese in it, and I may not know it. Right? It can have even the dressings that I'm choosing. Sometimes it can have honey. It can have maple syrup, right? And honey also has some kind of fructose that will also lead to some spike later on, right? So I have to customize it, or I can either ask that person that in this specific sauce, is there any sugar that is added to it? Is there any healthier alternative for this sauce? Right? We can also follow the sauce and side strategy here, which I'll be talking about later. Now, if we talk about the fast food meals often have very much sodium, a lot of sugar, a lot of fat in them, right? So I have to be very mindful when I'm having food outside. Also, if we talk about choosing the grains, so choose more complex grains. Instead of going for the refined flour, maybe I'll try whole wheat. Instead of going for beef, maybe I'll try more lean proteins. Instead of going for overcooked veggies, I can try some crunchy vegetables, some steamed, and cooking procedures like this. So, in the next slide, we are going to talk about the best choices by cuisine preferences. And I'm going to talk about American cuisine first, right? So when I'm at an American restaurant, an American cafe or eatery, I'll just make sure that I look at the menu first and I choose something, the cooking procedures like grilled, roasted, steamed, because these are much, much better than deep fried items, right? Because that will have a lot of fat. And if you're like, basically, if you're overcooking something, that will make sure that most of the nutrients are lost from your food, right? So, what are the options that I can choose from at American places? It's the grilled chicken sandwiches. Choose sandwiches without sauce on a whole wheat bun or lettuce wrap instead of a bread. Right? You can choose the salad with vinaigrette because vinegar also helps you to some extent by reducing your post meal spikes. And the recent researches have also shown that if you add a little bit of vinegar to your salads, that will also make sure that your post meal spikes are much better. Right? So avoid those creamy dressings, avoid those cheesy dressings, which are often high in fat and calories. Look at the cooking procedures that I mentioned into the menu: baked, grilled. Opt for baked items, grilled items, roasted items, steamed, stir fried options more. Because these cooking procedures are healthier as compared to the over grilling something, right? Like over frying something. Now, what are the foods that I need to avoid? I have to look out for. These are fries, milkshakes, anything that is breaded fish, fried foods, sugary barbecue sauces as well, right? Now let's talk about the Mexican cuisine or Latin American cuisine. Mexican cuisine is very, very tasty and there's a lot of options to choose from, right? So what do I actually order there if I'm at a Mexican place? I can go for soft corn tortillas because these are much, much better than the refined flour tortillas, right? And these are much, much healthier than the flour ones. You can go with fajitas, you can enjoy grilled meat, veggies, guacamole. And you can skip the sour cream as well. That makes your Mexican meal even more healthier. Now, what are the foods I have to look out for if I'm at a Mexican place? Avoid chips, avoid queso, avoid rice heavy dishes and like sugary margaritas, which can easily and quickly raise up your sugars, right? Because it will, any kind of table sugar, any kind of syrup that is being used, that will quickly introduce into your bloodstream and will make sure that your sugars are on the higher side after 1 hour of consumption. You can order black beans there. You can add black beans to your tacos. Black beans are also a good source of fiber and protein. Now, if we talk about another cuisine, which is Italian and Mediterranean cuisine, no, Italian cuisine will have so much of pastas, so much of pizzas, right? So, which pasta or pizza to opt for? If we talk about just the pizzas, then instead of going for a thick crust pizza, maybe I'll go with a thin crust. And even if my friends are ordering something like a thick crust pizza, I can do some portion controlling there. If there's some salad, if there's some protein source, I'll make sure that I portion control it so that it is not immediately leading to a spike. If it has lot of fats, fats will make sure that isn't a instant spike, but later on you will see a spike because fats get digested at the end, right? So, which pastas can I choose from? I can choose whole wheat pastas. I can choose lentil based pastas, right? So, choose whole wheat pasta with your marinara sauce, with olive oil dressings, with pesto and sauces like this. And if we talk about the proteins, then choose more of the grilled choices or lean meats and Greek salads with dressings on the side because these are much healthier than than the salads which have lots of sour cream and fat in it. If you talk about hummus with veggies, this is also a very good option because hummus will have a good portion of a good mix of protein and fiber both. So you can have your hummus with veggies instead of bread because that will also make sure that you're not increasing the amount of carbs in your meal because it's not that the vegetables will not have carbs, right? Vegetables does have carbs as well, right? But if you're having that bread with your hummus, and if the bread is like in larger quantity as compared to the hummus, it's still going to give you a spike later on. So portion control is very much needed. Now, what are the foods to avoid at an Italian place? I would avoid cheesy mac and cheese. I will avoid white pastas, creamy sauces, Alfredo, fried calamari, and pizza with a thick crust on it. Now, if we talk about Asian cuisine, Chinese, Thai, and Japanese restaurants are in our mind, right? So, what do I order when I'm at an Asian place? I can order for something steamed or stir fried, as we talked about. So, enjoy your steamed or stir fried dishes with lean proteins and veggies because the way you sequence your meal is going to have a huge impact on your post meal spikes. If there's something like white rice or any other millet, I'll choose brown rice or the other millet that is there so that there is some good amount of complex carbs because complex carbs will take some time, a little bit more time than your simple carbs to like absorb into the bloodstream. So choose brown rice, or even if you're not comfortable with rice, if rice tends to give you a higher spike, you can go with cauliflower rice as well. If you talk about sushis, then you can opt for sushis with sashimi, with veggie rolls, because sushis will also have some huge amount of rice in it. So like instead of having more rice in my sushi and very less vegetables, I can opt for some good amount of protein and veggies. So there's a good mix, and this will also be much tastier than the rice ones, right? Very little rice and more on the protein and veggies one, and I can customize it. If the customization is so if you have the choice for customization, please opt for that. Now, what are the foods to avoid at an Asian place or some choices to look out for is the sweet sauces, especially the teriyaki ones and fried rice and tempura, things like this. Now, what's your biggest challenge when eating out with type 2 diabetes? Is it portion control? Is it the hidden sugars that are there in my meals? Is it the added sugars? Is it the limited healthy options? Or is it the social pressure or the peer pressure?
Definitely limited healthy options, Kanashka, at least for me.
Okay. Limited healthy options. That's true. So in
Social pressure. We have one more answer which says social pressure.
that's again very much true. What else? So we know about the limited options that are there, limited healthy options, as Apurva correctly said, and also like social pressure. Like when I'm with my friends will like ask me to have something, and maybe I do not want to have it. Maybe I know that it's not good for me, but because there is a pressure or something like that, I would end up having it with them.